History, distribution, and uses of avocado. Origin. The avocado, Persea americana mill, is a polymorphic tree species that apparently originated in a broad geographical area stretching from the eastern and central highlands of Mexico through Guatemala to the Pacific. The coast of Central America, Popno, 1920. Smith, 1966, 1969, Story et al., 1986. Archaeological evidence indicates that utilization and selection of this crop have gone on in Mexico for a period of 10,000 years. Seeds found in caves in the Tehuacan Valley, Puebla State, show that during that time there was a progressive selection for increased fruit size, as indicated by the increasing size of the seeds uncovered at later compared with earlier levels of excavation, and presumably also for other desired qualities. Smith, 1966. 1969, the most common English name for this fruit, avocado, is a modification of the Spanish name aguacate or aguacate, derived from the Nahuatl word aguacatl. The common name for the fruit in Dutch is advocat or avocat, in German abacate, and abacate in Portuguese. Another name in some South American countries is palta, alligator pear, and midshipman's butter is a somewhat fanciful English name also used occasionally. Anonymous, 1961, Ox et al., 1961. Morton, 1987. Ecological races. Before any European saw the avocado, horticultural forms, greatly improved over wild types had been selected, probably over several millennia. These were within three distinct, ecologically separate taxa, or subspecies, now termed the Mexican, Guatemalan, and West Indian or Antillean, more correctly, lowland, races, after the usage of Wilson. Popno, 1920, applied for more than 80 years ago. The term West Indian is inaccurate inasmuch as it was shown early in the last century that avocados were unknown in the Antilles before the Spanish conquest. Popno, 1935. Scora and Berg, 1992, renamed the West Indian subspecies the lowland taxon, a term that accurately describes its adaptations without involving geography. However, the older term is firmly entrenched and is used throughout this volume. Popno, 1934, determined that the three races he had described earlier were already recognized in essence and had been differentiated in 1653 by Father Burnaby Cobo in his Historia del Nuevo Mundo. 4. Further information on racial characteristics. See Scora et al., Chapter 2, and Lahavand Lavie, Chapter 3, in this volume. Current consensus opinion agrees that the lowland race probably originated on the Pacific coast of Central America in an area ranging from Guatemala southward to Panama. Story et al., 1986, A. Benyakov, Bet. Dagon, 1998, Personal Communication. As a result of the widespread distribution of avocado germplasm to locations well removed from their sites of origin, considerable interracial crossing occurred to such a degree that these days the most economically important cultivars in both subtropical and tropical areas of culture are the result of hybridization between races. Ecological adaptations. Persea americana is a variable species consisting of several taxa, botanical varieties, and subspecies that include the three races discussed above, respectively var. germifolia, var. Guatemalans, and var. Americana, plus other close relatives. notably the varieties Nubigena, Steiermarki, Ptolemaensis, Zentmierii, and Flacosa, and probably also var. Costarricensis and var. Tilleranensis, see Scora et al., Chapter 2, this volume. The so-called West Indian avocado is a tree of lowland, hot and humid Central American forests with a short dry season. On the other hand, the presumed native habitat of Mexican avocados is more elevated, 1400 to 2500 m, and cooler, with mean annual temperatures from 14.2 to 19.8 degrees Celsius, rainfall from 665 to 1,562 millimeters, and a 6 to 8 month winter-spring dry period. Wolstenholme and Wiley, 1999. The presumed native habitat of Guatemalan avocados presents the less extreme conditions common in tropical highlands, with year-round cool conditions described as a humid tierra templada, Papadakis, 1966. Before 1492, avocados had been taken from the places where they were first grown and deliberately introduced into northern South America and Central America, into parts of Mexico, and also into Peru. 8 references to avocado remains in pre-Columbian archaeological sites in Peru exist. Tal, 1961. The Incas are reported to have brought avocados from the province of Palta to the valley of Cuzco, where their capital was located. Excavations that uncovered avocado remains at 2 sites in the Moche Valley date from 4000 to 3500 and 3500 to 1400 BC, Pazorski. 1976, forms of avocado adapted to the low 2RJ Knight, Jr. Los Angeles. Mexican. Guatemalan. West Indian. Southern Nuevo Leon. Mexico City. Guatemala City. El Salvador. Managua. Figure 1.1. Proposed centers of origin for the Mexican, Guatemalan and West Indian lowland ecological races of avocado. From Story et al., 1986, with permission. The Avocado 01, December 6, 02, 1:39 p.m. page 2. Land tropics were taken to the Antilles soon after the Spanish conquest, Popno, 1920. Early distributions. Recognition of the avocado's nutritional value impelled colonizers of the Americas to distribute this crop to possessions in the Eastern Hemisphere where the climate permitted its culture. Acceptance of the fruit by local people, and thus the success of introductions, varied. The avocado was introduced to Indonesia by 1750, Morton, 1987. Some doubt exists as to when it was brought to the Philippines, although Merrill, 1923, states that its introduction occurred before the end of the 16th century. If so, it did not become well established inasmuch as only one tree survived beyond the Spanish occupation, and this one was destroyed by a typhoon in 1905. P.J. Wester, an American horticulturist involved in agricultural development in the Philippines during the first quarter of the 20th century, stated that avocado introduction antedated the American occupation by at least 25 years. However, G. Nesum, an early director of the Philippine Bureau of Agriculture, attributed the introduction to a Spanish priest who brought the fruit with him from Acapulco, Mexico, in 1890. The single specimen that was destroyed in 1905 would appear consistent with the 1890 introduction date. Germplasm introductions from Hawaii, Costa Rica, and the USA began in 1903 and continued until 1915, Pyong, 1936. The avocado was introduced to Brazil in 1809 and is currently grown commercially in 7 states located at a latitude of 15 to 25 degrees S. The germplasm originally introduced was West Indian, and cultivars of that race were developed from local selections, but subsequent introductions of the Guatemalan race were made. The cultivars of most economic importance at present are considered to be West Indian Guatemalan hybrids, Donadio, 1984. By the 19th century, trees of the West Indian race, probably introduced from Cuba much earlier, were naturalized in the Canary Islands, where they are currently used as seed sources for salt-tolerant rootstocks of cultivars grown in Peninsular Spain, Galan and Fernandez, 1983. The avocado was introduced to Hawaii early in the 19th century and was common on Oahu by 1855, Yi, 1964. It was brought to the island of Corsica in 1958, when the San Giuliano Agronomic Station, Station de Recherches Agronomiques de Corse, San Giuliano, began operations, Volin, 1982. Subsequent distributions. South Africa. Little has been recorded about early introductions of avocado into South Africa, but it is accepted that the first trees were West Indian race seedlings planted on the coastal strip of Natal, especially around Durban, in the late 19th century, Ludman, 1930. Fruit from these trees was of inferior quality and attracted no commercial interest. Anonymous, 1965. During the mid-1920s, budded trees of Mexican, Guatemalan and hybrid origin were imported from California and proved to be better adapted to climatic conditions than the West Indian germplasm. Malin, 1957. This material formed the basis of a new avocado industry, with Fuerte soon dominating production. More recently, Hass production has significantly increased, extending the season of supply of South African fruit into European markets. D. Duncan, Sanine, 1999. Personal communication. Avocados are now widely grown in South Africa, principally in the Northern Province and Mpumalanga, and also, to a lesser extent, in the frost-free lowland coastal belts and cooler midlands of KwaZulu-Natal, as well as in Swaziland. The climate of Nelspruit in the Mpumalanga is classified as low Tierra Fria with a dry monsoon, suitable for wheat, maize, rice and cotton. Papadakis, 1966. South African avocado production has increased more than 11-fold from 1961 to 1996, from 4,700 to 53,800 t, and is export-based. Israel. The first avocados were introduced into what is now Israel in 1908, but the named cultivars Fuerte and Dickinson were not brought in. History, distribution and uses 3. The Avocado 01, December 6, 02, 1:39 p.m. page 3. Until 1924. In 1934 Bennock, Nabal and Queen were imported from California. By 1947 Fuerte was the leading commercial avocado, but because of its erratic yield a more dependable cultivar was sought. Others on trial at that time were Duke, Northrop, Mexicola, Ganter, Puebla, Caliente, and Anaheim. Oppenheimer, 1947. Hass was Introduced into Israel in the late 1940s and had been added to the list of recommended varieties by the mid-1960s, Ohad, 1965, Ticho, and Geffen, 1965. Despite its problems, Gustafson, 1967, Fuerte continued to be the most commonly planted cultivar into the 1970s and remains important. Cultivars developed within the country, notably Iriot, Audi and Gill, have been planted in recent years, as well as some of California's newer kinds, e.g. Reed, Pinkerton and Ardith. Lahav, 1994. The subtropical Mediterranean climate in Israel is characterized by winter weather, November to mid-March, that is generally cool, but may be as warm as 30 degrees Celsius. On cloudless days, occasional temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius or above may occur during extremely hot Hamsun days in springtime. Freezing temperatures may occur occasionally on the coastal plain, with temperatures in some pockets that lack air drainage descending to as low as 4.5 degrees Celsius. Oppenheimer, 1947. The success of Israel's avocado industry, based on Californian germplasm, most of which came originally from Mexico, is exemplified by production figures which rose over a 35-year period, from 800 t in 1961 to 75,900 t in 1996, Table 1.2. Chile. Chile has a variety of climates, too well suited to avocado culture are respectively termed subtropical semi-arid Mediterranean and marine Mediterranean. Papadakis, 1966. Seedling trees of the Mexican race have been grown in the country since colonial times, but the Ministry of Agriculture first imported commercial cultivars from California in 1928. Because of climatic problems where they were planted, Santiago, these trees attracted little attention. In 1932, however, a shipment of 14 cultivars of Mexican, Guatemalan, and hybrid origin was planted at La Cruz, and additional cultivars were imported in later shipments. These formed the nucleus of a developing avocado industry. Hass was imported in 1944 and has since become the dominant cultivar. In 1958, all avocado production was marketed within Chile, and prices were occasionally depressed when fruit supplies exceeded demand. Magdal, 1958. By 1965, however, demand was good and the industry was growing. Schmidt, 1965. This trend continued and accelerated as Chile entered the export market. Its avocado production rose from 800 t in 1961 to 55,000 t. By 1996, Table 1.2. Australia. Avocados were introduced into Australia by the Kamarunga State Nursery in Queensland late in the 19th century, Wiley, 1982, but it was not until the 1930s that named cultivars from California were imported. Zentmeyer, 1965. There were few commercial orchards in the country until the 1940s. Alexander, 1978. The avocado was not well known to Australian consumers for some years after the first introductions, but the arrival of American servicemen in 1942 encouraged a demand for the fruit that grew slowly in the years after World War II. Sharp, 1950, Story, 1960. Consolidation of the numerous cultivars grown gradually occurred and from the 1960s Until the late 1980s, Fuerte became the most important cultivar. However, this situation rapidly changed during the 1990s and today. Hass is the most widely grown cultivar, with Shepherd and Charwell the next two in importance, Newitt et al., 2001. Shepherd is a Californian cultivar that did not find favor where it was selected due to sensitivity to cool temperatures during flowering, while Charwell is of Australian origin. Both are reliably producing cultivars when grown in warm, subtropical climates. Avocados are grown in a variety of locations in Australia along the eastern coast of the country, Schultz, 1961, in climates that range in classification from humid subtropical to warm subtropical, and Mediterranean subtropical, Papadakis. 1966, the traditional growing regions are for R.J. Knight, Jr. The Avocado 01, December 6, 02, 1:39 p.m. page 4. Southern Queensland and Northern New South Wales, but during the 1970s production was extended to other areas, including the Atherton tableland in North Queensland and the irrigated settlements along the Murray Valley in southern Australia. More recently, there has been an important expansion of production in southwest Western Australia, from where fruit can be supplied to lucrative markets during the summer months. December, March, Newitt et al., 2001. The increasing domestic popularity of this fruit in recent years is demonstrated by the rise in production from 400 t in 1961 to 16,400 t in 1996, Table 1.2. This trend has accelerated in the last 4 years, with production reaching 31,740 t in 2000, Wiley, 2001. United States. The first avocado introduction to California occurred before 1856, when a tree from Nicaragua, probably brought by a gold rush participant, was observed growing near San Gabriel, Condit, 1916. The introduction of most importance to California, and later to the rest of the world, occurred in 1911 when a plant explorer named Carl Schmidt, acting for Fred Popenoe, proprietor of the West India Gardens, a commercial nursery at Altadena, collected budwood of an outstanding seedling of mixed Mexican and Guatemalan parentage that grew on the Rodales farm near Atlixco in Puebla State, Mexico. Asexually propagated and named Fuerte, this cultivar became the basis of California's avocado industry and later that of many other countries. Popenoe, 1926. Fuerte and Hass have, to date, been the avocado cultivars of the greatest commercial importance throughout the world. The first avocados to survive the introduction to Florida were brought in, probably from Cuba, sometime before 1850, when trees of the West Indian race were found growing in hardwood forests, hammocks, by early settlers in the Miami area. Fairchild, 1945. The first commercial avocado production in Florida was of West Indian cultivars, but the introduction of Guatemalan germplasm in the early 1900s enabled the origin of a new kind of avocado, a group of hybrids that combined the high fruit quality and autumn and winter maturity of Guatemalan cultivars with adaptation to warm lowland elevations of the West Indians varieties. This new group permitted the Florida industry in the 1930s to enter autumn and winter markets and so survive. during a period of severe economic hardship. Brought on by strong competition for the summer market from Cuba, Brooks, 1929. Anonymous, 1934. It also enabled many lowland tropical areas, not adapted to the Mexican-Guatemalan hybrids that perform well under California's Mediterranean subtropical conditions, to produce fruit of superior quality for local and export markets. Knight and Campbell, 1999. As an example, cultivars are currently grown in Cameroon. Include one of Mexican race from California. Zutano, 3 from Guatemala, Nabal. Itzamna and Taylor, 1 hybrid from California, Anaheim, and 5 Guatemalan West Indian hybrids from Florida and the Caribbean, Booth 7, Booth 8, Hickson, Lula and Semmel 34, Duslier and Ray. 1989. From 1933 to 1998, 179 distributions of avocado germplasm was recorded from USDA's Miami Germplasm Repository. A single distribution consisted of 1 or more units of germplasm, i.e. cultivars, selections, or seeds. The geographical destination of every distribution was not recorded, but among those which are the following 163 recipients: Florida, 35, California, 15, the rest of the USA, 21, Central America and the Caribbean, 23, Asia, 23, Africa, 22, South America, 14, Seychelles, 4, Europe, 3, Australia, 1, Fiji, 1, Reunion, 1. Inasmuch as most of these distributions were of clonal material of considerable commercial value, they undoubtedly contributed to the phenomenal rise in avocado production over a 35-year period in many parts of the world where this is not a traditional crop. World production and marketing. Total world avocado production increased approximately 3.3-fold over a 35-year period, from 697,869 t reported from 76,770 hectares in 1961 to 2,303,389 t harvested from 339,141 hectares in 1996, Table 1.1. Annual production increased at a fairly steady rate until 1986, when total world production first passed the 2 million mark, reaching in 1996 the highest figure reported up until 1998, Faustat. Database, 2001. The lowest rate of increase over the 35-year period was reported for South America, which already led world production in 1961, an approximately 1.9-fold increase from 205,970 t in 1961 to 382,843 t in 1996. The greatest production increase for the period was Europe's approximately 196-fold rise, from 340 t in 1961 to 66,800 t in 1996. Oceania also showed an appreciable rise, tenfold, from 2,060 t in 1961 to 20,900 t in 1996. Other increases reported during the 35-year period were sevenfold for Asia, 44,160, rising to 311,477 t, 4.4-fold for Africa, 44,939, to 198,581 t, 3.4-fold for North America, 51,342 to 173,000 t, essentially the USA's production, because that of Mexico is reported with Central America and the Caribbean, and 3.2-fold for Central America. And the Caribbean 349,062 to 1,148,796 t. This last figure reflecting Mexico's enormous production in 1996, Table 1.1. The situation continues to be dynamic in many parts of the world where the avocado is a new or traditional crop that has undergone considerable expansion, such as Mexico, whereas avocado production remains more or less static in countries like Brazil, where it is not subject to increasing demand from export markets. Table 1.2. The foregoing indicates the dramatic increase in world avocado production since 1961, when the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO) began to keep avocado records. On the African continent, production in Cameroon rose from 12,000 t in 1961 to 45,000 t in 1996, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Zaire, from 14,000 to 29,645 t during the same period, and in South Africa from 4,700 t, 1961, to 53,800 t, 1996. Table 1.2. In Asia, Israeli avocado production expanded from 800 t in 1961 to 75,900 t in 1996, in Indonesia during the same period it increased from 30,000 t to 143,200 t. The greatest increase in production in Europe occurred in Spain, which has an area of traditional avocado culture in the Canary Island